Hey, welcome back to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. I'm your host, Coach Zach. I am here with Coach Brandy and Coach Caden. What's up, guys?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey there.
Just living the dream today.
Yeah, Caden's always living the dream. You and me, buddy, living it. Is it your dream or are you just in it?
Oh, no, it's my dream.
Okay. All right, good. We've got a great episode for you guys today. We're excited to talk about this. We're talking about fitness non-negotiables. So certain things that you have to just set in your life that are not negotiable, that you are going to do all the time around your health and fitness. But before we get into that, we want to give a shout out to a client of the week. And this week, our client of the week is Ralph Wilson. So Caden, I'll let you say some nice things about Ralph, but I think for this episode, I'd like to just maybe give a shout out to the whole 5 a.m. crew, because anybody that comes in and trains at 5 a.m., like, fitness is a non-negotiable for that person. That takes some dedication. But Ralph's new, he's been crushing it, and we wanted to give him a special little shout out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got nothing but great things to say about Ralph. I mean, the dude's always looking to be pushed, always pushing himself. I mean, he definitely isn't one to come in and take it easy on himself. He's got a couple different injuries that he's worked through, and he's always full force, ready to go.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you do a consultation with somebody and they're like want to be elite, right? Like be the absolute best that they can be. And they research and they're doing all of these things already. Like, with him, I think it's like he was intermittent fasting and waking up and meditating and cold plunging, and like he's doing all the things that, to optimize human performance. And I was like, all right, dude, well, you just got to get here for the workouts. Well, you're already putting in a lot of the work. We just got to get you to show up and we'll, take care of the rest. So shout out to him though, because he is working hard. And I never get to see that, like the 5 a.m. peeps, because they're usually gone by the time I get here. And I was like, I was texting him, I was checking in, and he just showed up here. He was like, hey, I know I was driving by and just wanted to, stop in and say hi and,
cool.
chat, do a little check-in. So I was like, sweet, man, that was perfect. I didn't even have to like track him down, he just voluntarily came in. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about non-negotiables. So I'm sure we could go around the table and just kind of like throw certain things that we think should be non-negotiables out there. And I think we'll probably do that. But most people, I don't feel like, have non-negotiables when it comes to their health and fitness. Mm-hmm. So I think people look at working out as like a luxury almost, right? And it's the thing that gets pushed to the background if anything else comes up, right? With like if their schedule starts to get busy, if they have a work project, if they, are chauffeuring their kids around. I mean, you name it, you could come up with any number of things. People will always prioritize those things over working out, it seems like. And I'm talking like in general, mm-hmm. right? Not necessarily our clients, because they're here and they're pretty dedicated. But just you see that all the time, right? Is people are just willing at a whim to sacrifice their health and their fitness, and they don't really have things that are non-negotiable for them. It's like very easy for everything health and fitness to be negotiable. Like they're like, yeah, whatever. Like my life's starting to get busy. I'll negotiate with you. I'll just throw this workout out the window. Right. And then pretty soon that one workout turns into two workouts and turns into weeks and months. And then all of a sudden it's like they're the person that's coming in to do a consultation with us versus the person that's like, hey, I worked through this and I just kept going and never had any type of real lapse in my program. And I think for our clients, the ones that we have seen that are the most successful long-term are the ones that this is just built in, like the showing up for workouts is just built into their routine and their lifestyle. And I think that's like the main key KPI is just consistency with the workouts. Like that they might struggle with some other things. They might not have negotiables or non-negotiables in other areas of their lives. But if they just make the workout piece, just getting to their workouts 3-4 times a week, a non-negotiable, in the long run, those are the most successful people. So before we kind of go through like round robin, the non-negotiables that we think people should have, it's just like if working out is not one of those, if that's not one of your like number one on the list, the rest of them probably won't happen either. So I just wanted to start with that, is like you have to say working out 3-4 days a week for the rest of my life is going to happen no matter what, regardless of my schedule, regardless of work, regardless of even like an injury, right? Like we've seen people that have some sort of injury or they, get sick, and it's like they're down for a couple of days and then they're back at it. And those people, that's a non-negotiable for them. Right. And they fare much better than the people that are like, oh, I got injured, I can't work out for the next who knows how long, right? So, Brandy, I'll go to you. Okay. I don't know if you want to start with non-negotiables or if you have something to say about that, and then we can go like round robin too.
We were kind of talking about this before the episode on, okay, what are your non-negotiables? And in some ways, like I was thinking about it for myself, and I'm like, what are my non-negotiables? Because at this point, I feel like those things that were non-negotiables at one point have now just become part of my daily routine and my habits and things that I built into my day that maybe at one point I was really conscious about, okay, I need to make sure these things happen. And then they become part of your routine. And then I think you kind of change the way that it changes the way that you feel. And then those non-negotiables just become your everyday routine. You don't even think about it anymore. So I think setting non-negotiables can be really important for someone that doesn't have that self-motivation to like get to the gym, to eat healthy, to do the things that they need to do to be healthy. So I think it can be really important to like mindfully sit back and say, okay, maybe I don't have any health and fitness non-negotiables. So I need to establish and start with just one. Establish one non-negotiable and then kind of go from there. And I think that can, eventually become part of your routine. And then, and then you can work on other things.
I'm so glad that you said that. It's so amazing to think about. It's like, yeah, it might be a non-negotiable for you at this point, but at some point that becomes just a part of who you are, and you would never not think about doing it. It's not a matter of discipline at that point. It's not a matter of like, oh, I have to do this. It's just inherent. It just becomes intrinsic. So that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Caden, what about you? Like, I not necessarily. Do you have specific things that are non-negotiables for you, or is it like what Brandy has said, is they've become just second nature?
Yeah, I'm going to say for the most part, they become second nature. I guess like one thing that like I personally kind of like focus on that has become just something that's I guess a fitness essential is going to be like protein intake day over day. I don't really, to be honest, track calories, worry about carbs, worry about fats. As long as I can hit my protein intake, that's something that I've realized has become just really important for my recovery and just continued growth overall.
Is that something you have to think about at this point?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, just because just depending on the day, I'm going to say things get busy. I'm like, okay, I'll eat in the next hour, and then 4 hours go by, and I'm like, I should probably eat something real quick. So I tend to get kind of distracted and like lost in whatever I'm doing. So I will say like even today, something that I still consciously kind of make a focus for myself. Yes.
Okay, and so for you, you're just having to say, hey, hitting this amount of protein is a non-negotiable for me. The timing necessarily doesn't matter all that much. You're just like, hey, if I didn't hit that window, now I know I have to double up essentially to hit it.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. That's a great lesson for most of our clients, because with the protein, it's like they're super low. And so like people, I don't know. Skipping meals is skipping meals is something that kind of baffles me. It's so interesting. It's like this complex thinking of people are like, their biggest problem is usually what they're eating. You know, they eat bad things and that's causing weight gain, but then they forget to eat or they skip meals. And it's like, well, those two things are kind of the opposite ends of the spectrum, but one of those leads to the other, right? Which I'm sure you and Gracie talked about in a snacking podcast episode that you guys did. But yeah, so that's a great lesson for our clients. Is like a non-negotiable is hit your protein, and if you miss it one meal, it's like, okay, well, there's still opportunity for you to still hit your protein at the end of the day, right?
Correct. Like, I guess even to go a little bit farther into that, like there's certain days where like I'll have my protein shake in the morning, a banana, and then there's certain days where, and that's at 5 a.m. I technically won't eat until like 3 when I'm finished with work and then my own workout. And then it's as soon as I get home, it's all right, protein, 2 hours later, protein, hour after that, another protein, and then before bed, it's protein shake. So like, I know it's not necessarily the most ideal, but to get it in, like, it's kind of get it in.
Yeah, you're doing that, and it's a non-negotiable, like you said. So you're like, okay, I got to make sure I hit this, right? What things for you were non-negotiables at some point, but have become habitual? Would you say that it's just at one point you were like, hey, I have to make sure I do this, and now it's just kind of happens. Sick. Yeah, it's just.
I would say water intake was something that I had to really focus on for a good while. I mean, it even got to the point where I just started bringing a gallon of water everywhere.
You were that guy.
I was that guy. Even bring it back to high school. Before that, I used to carry an igloo cooler, one of those draggable igloo coolers.
No, you didn't.
That came to every single class with me. Had about 4 meals in there, my protein shakes, my water for the day.
This in high school?
That was my senior year of high school.
I love it.
You were serious, man.
He told me before you were doing P90X in third grade.
Third grade. My parents started doing P90X and back then at like 5 a.m. in the morning. They wouldn't wake me up or anything, but I would just wake up and I'm like, hey, like can I work out with you guys? And they were like, I guess. So yeah, P90X starting in third grade was the first ever program that I was on.
Dang. Okay. The igloo cooler with like meal prep in it.
Meal prep in it, yep. Big blue one.
But what did people? What did the other kids say to you?
Most of them just. I mean, I guess didn't really say a whole lot. I had a couple teachers. I got a couple Friday detentions for eating in class.
But you didn't start a trend.
And I didn't start a trend, but I had goals, and I wasn't going to let them stop
me. Was it chicken and rice and broccoli?
Chicken and rice, broccoli. I typically brought like a PB&J sandwich in there.
Yeah.
A couple of cheese sticks, fruit.
Just eating like every hour and a half?
Pretty much, yep.
Wow, okay.
I love it.
That's a good story. I've never heard of somebody doing that as a kid,
Yeah.
Well, and then I guess my water with the jug. That was actually seventh and eighth grade. So there's some pictures of me in the yearbook carrying around my water jug. So that's where I had to make my water intake a priority. Was then. So
they have like most likely to succeed. Caden's was most likely to be shredded.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, yeah, this dude's gonna be a competitive bodybuilder for sure. Interesting.
So you basically have had intrinsic motivation your entire life.
we tried fitness out and we fell in love.
Yeah.
Okay, it started in third grade.
Yeah.
Those first burpees in third grade, you're like, where have you been all my life? All right then, Brandy.
I wish I had a great story like that to share. I don't know, mine is not quite as exciting, but yeah, there's definitely things that that for me, I feel like were non-negotiables at one point and now are just habit and routine. But water for sure, making sure that every single day I get some sort of physical activity, whether it's a training session or, some sort of cardio workout, or even if it's just taking the dog out for a walk, like whether I'm on vacation or not, like I do it every single day. And if there happens to be a day that goes by and for whatever reason that cannot happen, like I don't feel good. Like I don't like the way I feel. I just feel like I have this need to like move my body. And so I feel like that was a non-negotiable at one point. I'm like, I got to get to training session or move or like exercise once a day. And that's become routine now. So it's something now that I need. I feel like my body really craves that. Another one is sleep. You know, I'm mom, I have kids, I have dogs. I'm going to be up between like 5 and 6 every single day. So I know that. And I know that if I want to feel good and make the most out of my day, then I need to go to bed, too early to ensure that I get like 8 hours of sleep. So, at one point that had to be, okay, I really need to think about this and prioritize this and make sure that I set up my day so that I can get to bed at a certain time. And now that's really, become part of my routine as well. But that's a non-negotiable.
Sleep is a non-negotiable for me, but not because I have made it that way. It's just, 9:30 at night.
You're falling asleep.
And it's as intrinsic as it could possibly get. I'm like, okay, it's time for me. I've always, since I was a little kid, since we're, even before third grade, my parents, my mom loves like bringing this up. She never had to give me a bedtime. It would just be like 8 o'clock and I'd be like, I'm going to bed. See ya. Right.
Really?
Like what little kid does that? But I was like, okay, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. There was nothing to me that was more important to stay up for than I was like, I can do that in the morning. I'm just going to go to sleep. And I'm still kind of the same way. Like, I don't really function like my brain. My brain's not on fire after like, 5 p.m. So if that's why I work out usually in the evenings, is because like I can move my body, but I can't move my brain after that point. So for me, like I wake up in the morning and my brain's like, let's rock and roll. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, it makes more sense to have my brain be on fire and use that first thing in the morning. And then in the evenings when my brain is gone, I can just be like, okay, well, I can go move my body at the gym and work out. So, but sleep for me is for sure non-negotiable. And for our clients and our listeners, like that needs to be a non-negotiable for you. We've done numerous episodes on sleep and sleep hygiene and what's happening when you sleep and why it's important. But that has, for our listeners out there, like that has to be a non-negotiable for you if you want health, right? At the most foundational level, sleep is probably number 1 or number 2 in level of importance, right, for overall health. So that needs to be a non-negotiable. Set your bedtime, go to bed at that time. Wake up at the same time, get your sleep and set those. I go to bed at this time, I wake up at this time, within an hour of each on each end. And your health will start moving in the right direction, right? And your energy and all that. So, Caden, what else do you think should be a non-negotiable for our members?
Oh, I think one thing should be setting goals. Should be, I'm going to say, like a non-negotiable. Just in the aspect of continuous. As soon as you finish one goal, all right, I'm going to set my next goal, and I think that just gives us something to chase. I'm going to say day in and day out. And without those goals, I mean, like I run into it at times. If I don't have goals set, I just kind of end up going through the routine, going through the motions, which is beneficial. But I'm going to say to continue pushing, continue growing, I think having goals set is just going to help drive you to that next level or level you up in a sense.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. If you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there.
Yep.
Right. So it's important to have some sort of, I'm not a goal oriented person. Like it's just, I don't know why. I kind of feel like I'm just going to attack life and go as hard as I can. But sometimes that's not always a good thing, because if you don't know where you're going, it's like, how do you know when you get there? Right. So it's helpful to set some sort of miniature goal along your way to always say like, hey, this is the next stop for me. And then once I get there, I'll have another, I'll set another waypoint basically. Brandy, what about like, just give us another non-negotiable.
Yeah. So non-negotiable that I think, one that I've set for myself and I think could be important for other people is to be mindful about nutrition. And that includes water, that includes getting the protein intake up, ensuring you're eating enough calories. And then for me, just ensuring that I'm getting whole foods like fruits and vegetables. So non-negotiable would be focus on nutrition, and make that an important part of your day. I think a lot of times, eating can be sort of mindless, and people aren't really kind of planning that out or thinking about it or how what you're eating is going to make you feel or how that's going to impact your energy. So being mindful about nutrition, and then setting those nutrition there. I could do a whole episode on nutrition non-negotiables, but I think there are many different things you could focus on nutrition, and don't let it get overwhelming either. Like, start with one thing, getting enough water in. And then move on to getting your protein goal, like Kaden talked about, and then ensuring you're getting enough fruits and vegetables. It could be, just those things that you focus on.
Yeah, I think the water one is we kind of brushed over that when you were talking about carrying a jug around, but that one's so simple. It seems so simple, but it's so hard for people, right? And any time, this doesn't sound great, but any time somebody has an issue, like a challenge sticking with their workouts, with their program, staying on track with anything, I always have to remind myself that there are people out there that struggle to drink water. Right? To just put things into perspective. I'm like, if this person is struggling with this, to me, it's like, why are you struggling with that? That doesn't seem like it's that challenging, right? But then I have to, in order to reorient my perspective on it, I have to remember, hey, there are people out there that can't even drink water. So let's start there from that perspective and go, okay, now I get why this is a challenge for that person, right? Why it's a challenge, like whatever it is.
Right.
It makes it more relatable when you remember, okay, just drinking water is tough for people, but drinking water should be a non-negotiable for people. Like drinking 100 ounces of water per day should be a non-negotiable for every single person.
Yes.
That's like the minimum that you should be taking in, regardless of your height, your size, your age, like your like activity level. Minimum 100 ounces of water, and then it goes up from there. So that's the baseline, right? For that. I have a non-negotiable, like fitness non-negotiable that probably doesn't make sense to everybody, but my fitness non-negotiable for me is drink bourbon on Friday nights. It's like the opposite, but at the same time, when we talk about fitness non-negotiables, it's like you can burn yourself out, right? So being too obsessed and not balanced can lead to all kinds of other issues on the other end of the spectrum. Now, most people aren't on that end of the spectrum, right? But for me, it's like I know that I need to have a couple things in my life that aren't healthy, right? That I know aren't the best for me, but that I really enjoy. And that's like a non-negotiable that I'm not going to negotiate my health and fitness to not have that thing in my life because I enjoy it, right? So it's looking at it at the opposite end. We're looking at things of like we're the unhealthy and we got to have these healthy non-negotiables. I look at it as like I'm the healthy. I got to have a couple of things in my life that I know aren't good for me that are going to keep me balanced.
Yeah.
Right.
Balance is so important.
It is.
If you don't have balance, then it's hard to, it's really hard to maintain that in the long term. If you're trying to, whether it's your nutrition, your diet, whatever, you need balance. Yeah.
And so I think that's just important to mention. I use the bourbon as an example, but everybody probably has something like that in their life. Even Zach, who is like the most most dedicated person with like almost nothing in his life that you could find. But I remember talking to him one time and he's like, well, you got to have something, you know, you got to have something in your life that you know is not good for you. And I'm like, that's weird coming from him. I wonder what his is.
I was
He never
gonna
told
ask
me.
if you knew. I don't know.
He never told me, but I would be fascinated to find out. So, but it's probably something not even a big deal.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, every once in a while I drink an ounce of espresso.
Probably.
That wasn't it, because I know all he drank was water, but this is probably something that, menial. But I think that's important for people to realize too, is like we want you to set up health and fitness non-negotiables, but you always have to have some room in your life too for some other things. But like, your health needs to be a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Right? Being healthy needs to be a non-negotiable for you. And when you start there, you can start figuring out and mapping out the things that create health. And if your health is like, if you're just willing to negotiate with that and put it on the back burner and prioritize other things, you will not get away with that, unfortunately.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way that it is. And usually for most people, by the time they find out that they didn't get away with it, it's too late. The damage has been done, and now they got a really, really tough road ahead of them that's way worse and way harder than if they had just done the hard thing and set the non-negotiables previously to that. Yep. So we don't want to see any of that happen to anybody, right? So it's like, take action, set these things in place now, and then avoid that. Control what you can control, but push all that other stuff off. And the way you do that is setting up your non-negotiables.
I love it.
All right, guys, that's all we got for you. We'll be back next week with more great stuff. Thank you so much for listening to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. Do you have a question that you'd like for us to answer live on the podcast? If so, all you need to do is head over to the Apple Podcast app on your iPhone and do 3 simple things. First, leave us a rating and review telling me what you think of the podcast. In that review, ask anything you want related to health, fitness, or nutrition. And if you want a shout out, leave us your Instagram handle or name. That's all you have to do. Then listen to hear your questions answered live on the next Q&A episode.